Dark Slab Audio on music production and audio engineering. Welcome to Dark Slab Audio and our 4th Master Series. I do believe this is the 8th video in our 4th Master Series on sonic balance and sonic clarity. And in this video, we want to talk about the final mix. So the issue here is pretty simple. I mean, there's a lot of videos on my Master Series and my 2nd Master Series in dealing with mixing and all the things that have to do with it. But when you get to the end, when you get towards the end, you're as good as possible. That's going to the mastering and the engineer just to getting sweetened and for formatting. So when we go there, we really just have to go back and reevaluate all the work we've done at every single moment in time. There are tools like this tonal balance control that gives general ideas of different types of mixes and things like that. And you can also put your own in there that are from other songs. It's kind of a pretty cool tool, just kind of keep you in the safe zone sometimes. But a lot of times, depending on how complex your orchestration is, that it's not really, you really going to have to trust your ears on whether that sounds good or not, and not always be looking at some type of, prefabricated, area you're supposed to stay within, because things just don't work that way sometimes. But it is a great tool, and I do recommend it. The whole issue is when you get to the last part of the mix, and you're really just going through the whole mix one step at a time, one section at a time, one break at a time, one transition at a time, and every single moment at a time, making sure everything is balanced and as clear as possible. That, looking at the whole picture is the next logical step. And when we have to start evaluating how good a work we've done. If we've got an issue anywhere, how far back do we have to go? Do we have to go all the way back to the composition and go, we have to go all the way back to the composition and go, nah, that ain't flying, bro. I mean, as a whole now, can we change that? How far back do you got to go back to fix things and change things and make things sound better? That's the basic concept, and it's I talk about that a lot in my first Master Series. It's just a matter of going through and going back through everything you've done, fine-tuning it to where every moment in time is just got as much impact as possible and has super good sonic balance and really good sonic clarity, every moment in time. And so it's just kind of evaluating it. Our biggest tool with that, when we get done there, you look in my mixing, my Master Series, and that whole thing, it's a pretty long series, but when we're talking about our sonic balance and our sonic clarity at this point, our equalizer is our huge friend. If you look at this, let's say that I've got a guitar here and a bass, okay, and I did really good equalization on both of these when I processed them, but when I started mixing them together, now I have this. Okay, so I've taken great care to make sure they sound as good as possible all by themselves. But now when they're mixed together, you have this, right? So the concept here is how much does this need to be re-equalized to sound as good as possible? And this is at every moment in time. So you can see that there's differences here, right? So, I mean, these are some rough tracks, so don't worry think about the levels and stuff. They haven't been taking that much care. These are like rough practice mix tracks. But the concept is still fairly easy to see. This may need to be re-equalized. I've got this going on in here. I may need to boost up right in here because it's really hitting a low spot in there for something. Or I want to boost the high end a little bit. Or I want to kick the low end a little bit because of how heavy that bass is hitting there. There can be tons of things like that as you go through. Most of the time you can see it really well here, but when people start sweeping around and they're high pass filter and low pass filter in there and they start sweeping around looking for this kind of stuff. Maybe I need to drop that down a little bit in there. It's a little much. That right in there, it's a little weak. I need to kick that up a little bit. And the higher end, it's kind of weak. I need to boost that up. That. Oh yeah, bro. You know, that's the kind of thing we're doing. If you could see all of the tracks together instead of this just these two, is the contest that's happened there, because you going through there and thinking about the sonic balance, how it sounds, balanced at every moment in time with the frequency ranges and complementary instruments you have and the sonic clarity of all these instruments. This is, you want to clean it up with your equalizer. Add a little bit there, add a little high end, drop some of that bass out of it. I know you got this going on here. Who knows, it might feel a little weak in there, or you might feel like you need to attenuate that a little bit, like with the bass end and kicking it up in there. Who knows? However you're hearing it, that sounds as good as possible to you, as balanced and clear as possible, because it just doesn't balance the equalization. That if I've got a clarity issue in the higher end and I kick it up in the higher end, I'm getting some more clarity there, right? For at that moment in time, or in that transition, or that break, or something like that. Or I've got this all going on and the bass is too much at that one moment, just halfway through this measure. I need to kick that down a little bit, as the whole mix there. And it's like, oh yeah, now everything sounds much clearer, and it's like, oh yeah, bro, right there, and it's a huge thing. All that automation we talked about with doing an equalizer, you might have this being a moving equalization field, like we talked about the stuff work we were doing in the frequency area, and I talk about a lot in my master series, because in this one section and this one break and this one transition, you got it set up like this, but in the next transition you got that like that, that's like that, that's coming down like that, this has got down a little bit, you got a new node here, you brought that up a little bit, it looks like that. Sometimes I get things going and you'll have in 4 measures, I've got that thing, it's just moving around all over the place, depending on what's going on, so that it's as clear and everything's got as much clarity and as much balance as possible. And it's huge. So you just want to take your time, go back, reevaluating, fix things you can, and then finally, trying to get as much sonic balance and, across the stereo field and in the spectrum with your, with what you've done, go back and readjust things, and then go after it with your equalizer, so you can take these things into consideration and address them, so that it just, at every moment in time, in each section, each break, each transition, and sometimes, in a measure, I got to change. All of a sudden the bass goes, and the trumpet, bam, bam, and I'm like going, with my equalizer and setting up my elimination for that, so that it's like, yeah, it's just everything just clear as a bell. Oh yeah, dude, and it takes some effort and some time, and you really have to take your time, and really practice that concept and applying it there, because it's going to be basically the final step in getting really good sonic balance and sonic clarity. So you're really going to have to spend some time in your reevaluation skills, fixing things, how far you got to go back, and then that equalization and the automation, working with that, going through as things are working together in the whole mix. What do you have to do to get things clear, to pump things up, drop things down, move the, you might have this moving thing going on all places, the automation. That's okay. The better you get at it, the faster you get at it. It's amazing how much better your stuff will sound. So I certainly hope you enjoyed this next video on our 4th Master series, and I will see you in the next video.